G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. We're changing tack a little bit, and I feel like this episode is going to be a must listen, whether you're a property investor, whether you're buying your own home, or you're looking to get into the market. I don't normally say this, but this episode, I guarantee, will change your outlook on life. And if it doesn't, I want to know why. Today's guest is, I'm going to call him Benjamin Button, Jaemin Frazer. I don't know what your secret is, mate, but you look younger every time I see you, buddy. How you doing?
I'm well, thank you, and so happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love the energy. Every time you show up, mate, you come with this aura, this energy. It comes out in all the work that you do. If you don't know Jaemin Frazer's backstory, he's a life coach that has really gone up a gear, and I feel like your success is off the back of other people's success and they're making breakthroughs in their lives. So it's not about you, it's about your mission, your purpose, the impact you're having. And that is really, I guess, what's elevated your thinking and your message as well. And that's not blowing any smoke. I guarantee you, if you listen to his work, if you read his books, you will unlock a part of your life you never know existed.
I appreciate that, and thank you. That's come from your heart.
Absolutely is, mate. I read your last book. It is a little bit tattered because I read it in the sauna.
I saw that in the photos.
I read it in the infrared sauna. It was my hour of power, and I'd just plow through that, and I had to go back and reread it. And that's why I felt it was imperative to me to get Jaemin on here, because it's had such an impact on me that I feel like if I can have access to you, then people listening can then get access to you and access your work as well. Isn't that an awesome, I'd say, leverage point? But that was your book,
yeah, that's right,
as well. So, mate, before we kick off, what would someone listening by the end of our catch-up, what do you think they'd get out of this chat?
I love talking to exhausted people. So
you're in the right place there.
Well, I mean, I get invited to talk to young people about insecurity, because that's what I've got to double down on. The insecurity project's my thing, and teachers invite me in to talk to year 11, 12 students about insecurity, because kids are insecure, right?
That's like peak insecurity period, isn't it?
They are, but teachers are excited about having me there. Parents are excited about me being there. But do you know who's not excited about having me be there?
The insecure kids?
The insecure kids. They're little shits. Yeah. And they're not ready for wisdom yet, and they're not exhausted yet. Yeah. They've still got plenty of energy, and insecurity is probably still working for them. It's still driving them. I'll show you. I'll prove you. They're not ready to actually examine and evaluate. So I love talking to exhausted people, not because it's fun to be exhausted, but Mark Manson says all change is preceded by being wrong about something. So it's not until you're ready to be wrong that you open yourself up for an alternate viewpoint. So I think so many people assume that self-discipline is the only way forward. It is the benchmark for high performers, and they're frustrated at their own lack of discipline, and they think there's something wrong with them, and they reflect on previous years when they've been able to discipline themselves more, and now they're wondering why they're floundering and they can't just get it done.
Yeah.
And they're annoyed, frustrated, upset, judging themselves. So to actually realise it's not a discipline problem, it's a permission problem, and to have a light bulb around, oh my goodness, I've been pushing instead of pulling, there's a way through here, and just the sense of relief that would bring, like that'd be joyful to have one person go, oh my goodness, I get it. Yeah. And that's so life-giving.
Yeah, I think your impact is far bigger than one person, right? But if you think about the ripple effect, and I can say this now, and we've been in chats beforehand where discipline for me, I'm like, I've subscribed to the Goggins, get up, get it done, time is money, time is energy, make it count. I'm in the gym doing supersets to make the best out of my time, that I can then optimize my morning to then be more productive during the day. And I'm like, and Bernie's like, I thought gym was meant to make you more calm, but you're more wound up than ever. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what high achievers and high performers do. And you kind of subscribe into this mode of going, if I just keep going, and if I keep optimizing my day, keep being productive, keep being efficient, listen to a podcast while I'm in the shower, for example, and listen to something in the car, which is get up, get it done. And there's so much to be said about Goggins, because I think he's fantastic. So we're not ragging on him, but I feel like you've come up with a different energy going, is that truly serving you, or is it actually counter-cyclical as well? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm not trying to be deliberately aggressive or counter. That's not my point. I am an engineer at heart, I think. I love deconstructing things. I love understanding how things work. So I just look at self-discipline as a strategy. How does it work? What is it based on? And, you know, a simple bit of scrutiny of self-discipline realizes it's to manage yourself. So it's to use your best energy against yourself to make yourself do the things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And it's this fear that if you snooze, you lose. The moment you stop managing yourself, riding yourself, forcing yourself, tricking yourself, making yourself, then this bad, lazy, fat, recalcitrant part of you will come out and take over, and you move further away from the goal. So that's the structure of it. And that's most people's experience of themselves. They've got past mistakes, failures, disappointments, where they feel like, look at this, I do have evidence that I have to be managed. Yeah. So I'll find ways to keep myself under check. And you see it celebrated. Like Ned Brockman, the guy who ran from Perth to Sydney, yes. Crazy guy. I follow him on the socials because his energy is contagious. Yeah. His post yesterday was, he who conquers himself conquers the world. And so it's just this idea that that's the job. You're supposed to kill yourself. You're supposed to override your natural tendencies. You can't trust your natural tendencies.
Absolutely.
That's going to lead you astray. You've got to be better than you and do what you wouldn't do. So I get it, and people seem to make it work. But I think the starkest example, if you're willing just to think this clearly, Jocko Willink, he's like Goggins.
Yeah.
I heard him interviewed on Russell Brand's podcast. And Russell's like, Jocko, what do you do in the morning? Like, talk us through your self-talk. When you get up in the morning, you've got a big day ahead, lots of things to get done. What happens if you have negative self-talk? It's like, I don't really want to do it. I couldn't be bothered. She's like, oh, that's easy. Like, I don't have a conversation. I'm not listening. I'm not in a negotiation with myself. I do not negotiate with weakness. I just get it done. And so you think, wow, that's impressive. But if you transfer that language to any other relationship, imagine talking to your wife like that. Just go,
oh, trust me, it does not work.
I'm not listening. I'm not negotiating. It is my way, not your. This is how it's happening.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the definition of abuse. And some people do have abusive relationships, but to say that that's the benchmark, that's the high watermark, that's the best we could do, that's rubbish. So what I love about the midlife season and the exhaustion is that I think you get away with that in your younger years because your unconscious is like, you're not going to listen anyway. Like, it's working for you, you're getting it done. There's no reason for you to listen. But midlife, like, you don't have energy to waste anymore. You got to optimize. And there's this opportunity for your unconscious to go, you're a prick. Like, and it's so unfair and so unkind. You're managing me. Like, have you ever been managed by someone else and they think, right, because of what happened last year, I'm going to ride you. All your work now you have to submit through me. You know, I'm just going to make sure everything's checked. I'm not going to give you too much leeway. Like, it's such a horrible experience to have happen when someone doesn't trust you and you always feel misunderstood. And so to not trust yourself and to be managing yourself and thinking that the only way forward is to dominate, control, suppress, it's so unfair and unkind, and it's all based on a misunderstanding. So I get that discipline works. There's no way in the world you could tell me it's the best way forward, though. It's just no other relationship. It would be the best way forward to manage, control, dominate. So how could you imagine that would be the best way forward in relating to yourself as well?
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to hear it's refreshing. It's I guess it's kind of changing that paradigm at the moment, which is if you talk to somebody the same way you talk to yourself, exactly that. You'd be abusive.
That's right.
You'd be a tyrant.
Yes.
You'd be toxic. You'd be harsh. You'd be a bully.
Yeah.
But you do it to yourself, and I've heard that it's like, hey, this is super unhealthy, but it's like no, but I need this voice in me to go, hey, we're pushing to a new level.
Yeah, and I only perform under pressure, so people kind of watch themselves get it done when they berate themselves, when they flog themselves, when they create excess pressure, and they leave themselves no options, and they go, see, it works. And so if you look at the end goal and be very pragmatic about it and go, this has to produce a result. So the fear is if I take the pressure off, I will get a less net result. I'll have less productivity, less performance. I'll take it easier. I won't achieve. So if you say, well, no, what if you had to achieve more? What if, you had to increase your performance, your achievements, your ability to excel, and that permission was going to get you more of that, not less. Like that's a trick for people to get their head around, because they're so afraid that if they stop driving themselves, they'll go backwards. And so they never even imagine that they could have this conversation to set things straight.
Yeah, and I guess we've got you on here, and a lot of our listeners are in this space of building wealth, accumulating properties, building a portfolio. Usually they're the higher income earners. So there's an element to how I can really turn the dial on my income potential as well. I lay down some good foundations now. I'm going to be set for the future as well. How does a high performer, high achiever suddenly, I don't know, be more gentler on themselves when this is what got them to this level with success, whether that's through property, whether that's through wealth, or in their career?
Yeah, well, I think there comes a point in midlife where you get confronted with the fact that you don't have a choice anymore. So it's not working to treat yourself like that. There's this window of opportunity where your unconscious gets a chance to have a crack at a better conversation. And I see this with relationships. So the last book was a relationship book about how to change the people you love for all the right reasons and get the relationships you deserve using leverage. Yeah. I think it's exactly the same with yourself. So your unconscious goes, listen, you've been treating me like I'm your enemy for 20 or 30 years. I'm not willing to go around again like this. So if you want to keep doing that, here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to pull fuses out. I'm going to get in your way. I will agitate you. You'll get sick. You'll lose motivation. Things will get foggy in your head. It'll, like, weird things will start showing up in your world that you're blocked here and resisted here. And so I just love that all of a sudden your unconscious goes, there's a play here and I've got some leverage because I control 90% of the function. So you think you can dominate with 10% and get away with it? Not anymore. Not in the midlife season. You're too tired for that. You don't have extra energy. So I just love how predictable it is. And if you have any kind of self-awareness and any inclination towards love and gentleness, then the unconscious goes, I'm going to have a crack at this. I'm going to pitch for a better operation and sort this out so we can work together rather than be positioned as enemies.
And I feel like you're so confident in your work, and I'm still on the journey. Sure. Right? And I'll probably speak for a lot of people that are listening as well. And they're going, hang on, is that self-sabotage in a sense then? Or like, is this self-love or is this self-sabotage or is it self-discipline? Where is this sitting then? Because it's such a shift mentally that you're like,
it is. So Stephen Pressfield wrote a book called The War of Art. And Tim Ferriss says it's the best book ever written for creatives. Yeah. And that title is so important. And Pressfield's whole message is, if you're going to bring yourself to the world and do something meaningful and contribute, you're going to have to fight against resistance. And this resistance is internal. And so here are the strategies. You are at war. You are at war with resistance. So there'll be a whole bunch of self-sabotage that stops you doing the work, stops you doing the thing you know you want to, you know you must, to take those risks. You'll get afraid. There'll be doubts and fears, and you'll just have to feel the fear and get it done anyway. So he writes this whole treatise on how to fight against. So that's most people's experience. They see resistance and they go, oh, this is self-sabotage. This is the worst of me, the part that hates me, the part that doesn't want me to be successful, trying to get in my way, and I can't let that part win. And so I just imagine the unconscious just doing a bunch of eye rolling and it's like, yes, I'm resisting you. But it's because you're out of control. It's because you're an idiot. It's because, like, you're running this thing into the rocks. Like, yeah, I'm trying to stop. Yeah, hello. But it's, if you could just listen, if you could just give me 10 minutes to explain why I am resisting you. Like, I just think it's like, imagine you're running a factory and you're trying to pump out widgets and productivity and profit, get it done. And then the safety officer comes on site, hits the emergency shut button, and just goes, hey, everyone, got a few things to say. And everyone's blowing up because you're stopping us work and we're watching productivity go down and profitability, get out of it. And the safety officer's like, listen, I am resisting you, but I am not your enemy. Come and have a look at this. This blade is about to vibrate loose. This lead is about to short. Have a look at this floorboard. It's cracked. Someone's going to die here in the next week. Does anyone want to die? Oh, I didn't think so. here is a list of safety issues with your operation. I'm not your enemy. Your success must be safe. As soon as it's safe, power up. Let's get it done. So yes, I'm resisting you, correct, but not because I'm your enemy. I'm your advocate. I don't want you to die. So it's exactly the same. Your unconscious goes, yeah, I'm sabotaging you, correct, but I'm not your enemy. I want to stop you, because if I gave you more energy and more power right now, then it just speeds up the rate of demise. You are this close from dying already, and you want more energy, more focus, more motivation. That's ridiculous. So every cell is hardwired for protection. You can't just turn it off. So it just makes sense to lean in and listen and realise that there are some predictable safety issues for every ambitious midlifer that if you don't address, your unconscious will resist you.
And I feel like the only way we learn is on the other side, when that floorboard has come off and someone's got injured, right? Or like, there's no way that you're picking up those signs beforehand. It's only afterwards that you're going, I'm drifting away from my family, for example. I'm consistently angry or stressed, or I'm burnt out and now I need to go and find a pill or a 5-day retreat or plug into something else, the next powder that's going to give me a bit of a kick or a sugar hit to then get back on the tools and power up this workplace, right?
It's such a great point, because people who are investing, looking to get ahead, build their wealth, it's not the only thing that matters. And if the game becomes so focused on that, everyone's heard stories about someone who's, made a fortune and lost their family, made a fortune, lost their health, made a fortune, ruined their sense of self. Like, no one wants that, no matter how much money you get. If you lose your friends, your family, that's not what you want. So if that's your path, of course you would want your unconscious to grab your shirt sleeve and go, hang on a minute, like, yes, be wealthy, but can you understand what's going on here? Can you examine the safety issues in this operation? Can you make some upgrades so that this is sustainable and you can keep this? It doesn't ruin you. What's the profit of man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?
Yes.
Like, you're not going to be happy with that. So it's such, when you get it, you're like, oh my goodness, thank you that there is a part of me that loves me enough to get in my way and demand wisdom, demand an upgrade, demand safety. And when you see that there's a friend, not a foe internally, and that there is some structure to this and some predictability to this, it's so exciting, because then it becomes a framework, then it becomes a path that you could follow, and you could upgrade to permission rather than discipline, work with yourself rather than against yourself.
That takes some level of self-awareness though, because, I mean, you talk about insecurity, and if I'm powering ahead, at what point do you face up and then put a mirror to you going, actually, there is some insecurity showing up? Because they're probably confident in their own skin, their ability. Again, we're talking about high achievers, high performers, right? And then you're suddenly coming in here going, there's some insecurity. Like, no way, mate. Look at me. Like, I'm the boss around here. People are following me. How can I be insecure?
It's horrible. Like, this is all the advice when I branded myself the Insecurity Project. Glenn said, no, that you can't do that. That's like saying you're going to be the shit business guy. Like,
I remember
my business coach said, that's not going to work. Like, what will you do when that fails? Because people are insecure about being insecure. Yeah. So it's such a confronting thing. I was already ruined for anything else anyway, because people suffer greatly for not knowing it's a solvable problem. So I just thought, I'm going to talk about it really intelligently on repeat, so that when it becomes apparent that it is a problem, people will know that there is a solution to this. So I think everyone's insecure, and it is ruining everyone's life. But just because something's ruining your life doesn't mean you have to know that. It's how anyone smokes cigarettes. Like, it is actually killing you, but you don't have to pay attention to that fact. So if you did pay attention to that fact, then you can't keep smoking. It creates such a pain response. You have to do something about it.
Yeah.
So back to the last book around leverage, relationship change. So it's this idea that every relationship starts out lovely, the space is clean, but it doesn't stay that way. And so often couples find themselves 20 years down the track going, how do we get here? The space is not clean. It's kind of an arrangement. We've got kids together, we've got property together, we've got goals together, but there's stuff between us. And so what happens invariably is that one person reaches a limit about that situation quicker than the other. No two people are ready for change at the same time. One person goes, this is not working for me. And I know you don't want to hear this because you think it's fine and we're all good, but I'm not good. And I don't like this. This is not what I visaged for my life. This is not loving up. We've got to have some conversations. The other person goes, oh, no, it'll be all right, and tries to get out of it. Then one person goes, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm actually serious. And then the other person still tries to get out of it. And then the person who's serious goes,
they're not listening.
You're not listening, and I'm not asking you for this conversation. I'm actually demanding a conversation. Like, this is really important, and I'll do whatever to get your attention to have this conversation for the sake of our relationship, because this is worth fighting for. And so I think exactly the same happens with your unconscious. No one wants to stop. No one wants to listen. Self-awareness is hard. It's confronting. It's costly. So if you could just keep sailing on and not have to pay attention and fix anything, of course everyone would. So it's always a point of pain, and it's often through some kind of, misfortune, breakdown, burnout. You're watching your marriage about to fall apart. Like, something happens that causes you to go, hang on a minute, this is not sustainable. And so I wish there was another way, but often it's not. Often it's through pain that people are ready for change. So again, the predictable nature of it, I find the midlife season, the unconscious goes, I'm going to dial up the resistance, and make it really obvious that I am getting in your way now. Okay. Things are not working out, and I am sabotaging, and I just would love to have a conversation about what's unsafe. So yeah, I think there's a chance that no one wants to have this conversation with themselves, but the best of you finds a way, if there's any chance you'll listen, to go, there's some upgrades that you're going to love if you could just listen long enough to sort this out.
But you can probably, if anyone's listening, you can probably hear my mind ticking over.
Of course.
And my mind is spinning, so I'm even going to have to go back and watch this and re-listen and re-watch this as well. Because in my mind, I'm going, I would hate to get to that point, because now we're in a cure mode. We're not in a prevent mode.
Absolutely.
How do I? And so I'm always trying to fix things by nature, and I'm sure everyone else is give me the fix and I'll fix it. How do we prevent it getting to that point that we have these hard conversations?
Yeah, and this is the fun of the insecurity project, to be so clear and so consistent about the fact that insecurity is predictable, it's inevitable, it will lead to madness, has created a bunch of people to solve this problem before it becomes a catastrophe. People go, oh, wow, I get it. Yeah. That has increased my readiness to have this conversation. I'm not going to wait until it blows me up first. So I think the same. If you can go, oh, wow, self-discipline, when I think about it, that is such a crazy way to treat myself, to abuse myself and imagine that's going to get the best. You're telling me there's a better way? You're telling me I could relate, work with myself, and permission is the upgrade. Like, just to frame that for people, I think is part of why I'm so convinced this is an important message, to go, yeah, you don't have to wait till this blows up. If you can get your head around this, you could be smart about this, make the upgrade before the ship's on fire.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna pull something out that I've read of yours. Although self-discipline is culturally celebrated as best practice for high performers, it is the only motivational tool in the shed for most people. The tragedy is it is not anywhere near the best form of motivation available to humans. Now, again, if we're talking about high performers here that plug themselves in, I mean, people are listening to this podcast, they're listening to other podcasts. I've got my vision board on the wall for what I want to achieve this year. We've spoken about vision boards. So if it's not motivation, that's the only tool. What are the other tools on the tool belt that people are then picking off, going, this is the right screwdriver for this time, and this is the right drill bit for the next time?
I know it's hard to imagine that anything could be better than self-discipline, especially when you got people who seem to use that so well. But you look at, I looked at Goggins. I saw a post of his the other day. He put up a post about his knees getting drained. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that. And
it's not the first time he's had it. So
yeah. And he's like,
they've been taped up with duct tape or whatever.
You should see what I go through to do what I'm doing. Like, That's great, David. When did it become a great idea to take advice about how to be human from a soldier? That's my question, because he is a great soldier, and Soldier Training 101 is
Not even a soldier. He's the elite of the elite of the elite.
And so the process of dehumanization that goes into becoming an elite soldier, like there's no surprise. That is what happens. Emotion is irrelevant. Empathy, compassion, kindness, like they are human traits that have no value as a soldier. So they are command control. Do not even consider how you feel about this situation. Do exactly what is required in this moment. That's a good soldier. Wonderful. Not a good human. Like, imagine being married to a guy like that. You know, imagine wanting to go for a beer at 5 o'clock with David Goggins.
There's no beer to be had.
No, there's no beer to be had. Like, so yes, he can achieve certain things, but at what cost? So, an incredible guy, very likable guy, but out of control at the same time. And to suggest that's the model, horrible. So,
is it a message that people need? And this is why I guess the books have sold, speaking sells. Is it a message that the masses need to hear, that are undisciplined, that are lacking that self-motivation? They need that to kind of get into the right gear, whereas high performers need a different energy? Or you just go, look...
So hang on.
You can probably sense that I'm still trying to grasp this.
Yeah. So, like, young people will use self-discipline, but it is still to abuse yourself. So you're not going to hear me say it's a good idea at any stage to abuse yourself, to treat yourself as though you cannot be trusted. I'm not going to say yes. We will, because you'll be confused about your nature. You will have had some painful things go wrong in the past, and you'll think the reason that happened was because of you, and you will think there's some part of you that you can't relax around, but it's a misunderstanding in every situation. You have misunderstood who you really are. That's why you're managing yourself. Just like anyone who's ever been managed in a workplace has been misunderstood by their oversight.
Let me give some context here. So I always spoke before. You love to run, swim. I mean, you're crazy some of the distances that you do. It's high discipline. You don't get to run or swim those distances or bike without a level of discipline, some rigor, some commitment as well. I love to train, which then means my diet needs to fall into place. Otherwise, I don't get the results that I'm looking for as well. So there's got to be some element of discipline, because we show up. You know, people that are going to buy properties, there's an element of discipline that they're going to go back. They're going to get organized with their documents. They're going to get the right team around them. They're going to have the right mindset to go, I need to become an investor because I need to then build a quality life for me. So I don't do anything, I'm going to spend the money, therefore it's not invested and not building wealth for long term. Same applies to health, same applies to career. So how do we then turn and channel that discipline energy? And then what do we then, I don't know, in ourselves label or call that we go, I'm still showing up with the best version of myself to get the outcomes that I'm looking for, but I'm not plugging into this self-discipline mode. I'm now going to go into a self-love or a self-care mode.
Sure. If you were watching me from the outside, you might not be able to tell. I promise you there is no self-discipline in my life, not one skerrick.
When you've written 6 books, when you add I'm not even going to judge on body fat because you don't have any, but there is some level of, like, people have to go, Jaemin, there's some level here of discipline.
My body loves to be healthy.
Yeah, okay.
Like, that is the natural inclination. My body loves nutrition, loves exercise. Like, it's so joyful, so life-giving. So I have permission to be attractive. Yep. I have permission to show up. I have nothing to prove and nothing to defend. So the natural inclination then is to gravitate towards health, life, vitality. So you couldn't stop me running. Like, I'm not going, bloody hell, it's Tuesday, right? I said I was going to do a 10K, so I need to do that to have integrity with myself. It's like, excellent, I get to run today. Like, that'll be a wonderful thing to do. Like, to write the book, bloody hard, like one of the hardest things I've done. But I have permission. Like, so Stephen Pressfield says, still, he's written 30 books or whatever, he still says every day he disciplines himself to write. He fights against the resistance. He's terrified. He feels like an imposter. He's overcoming the fear to get it done, to do the work. Not for a moment am I overcoming fear. I have permission to bring my gift to the world. So my best energy is all focused on that work. Yes, it's freaking hard. Yes, it requires rigor, but there's no battle. I'm not being sabotaged. I say I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and write for 2 hours, and that's what I do. Like, I don't procrastinate about it. There's no argument. It's just, this is an important goal, and everything is organised around that for this season. So you might not be able to tell. If you look on the outside, Jaemin's discipline, gets up at 5 a.m. But almost every time I get up before my alarm. It's like, cool, let's go get it done. Like, there's no fight. So I get it that it's kind of strange. Most people are like, oh, I don't know, is that possible? But if you could just examine, like, and I'm sure you'll give me a chance to explain the four safety things, but if you're just willing to suspend judgment for a moment and listen to the predictable 4 things your unconscious would like to have a conversation with you about, like, they're beautiful things. You would be so pleased that anyone would want to talk to you about these 4 things, let alone the best of you would want to get your attention and have a conversation about these 4 things. So
I do want to have a chat about the four elements in a second. But you've said before, and it's come up in some of our chats around midlifers, and I feel like having just turned 40 recently, I'm working with a lot. I don't know if like attracts like, but I'm working with a lot of males in their 40s, and they're going, Aaron, this is like my prime. Like, I'm coming to some prime years from an income perspective.
Yep.
Probably come out of that early kid stage, and the kid's a little bit older now, so I'm not having those demands on me from a fatherhood level. What I'm really need to do is optimize our life, our wealth, that I'm going to put down some roots, whether it's investing in property, buying that house, taking that career step for income, that we're going to thank ourselves in 20 years' time when we have a comfortable retirement. And I've even felt it myself. When I hit 40, I'm like, this is my decade. This is the opportunity that I've got to seize and to make this window in time to really make some good, smart financial and career decisions that my future bloodline will thank me for. And you kind of carry this little bit of weight, and you're going, right, get to work. And I feel it for a lot of that energy for a lot of clients, particularly coming out of COVID where property just went gangbusters, and we've kind of come into this new wealth effect as well. And it's like, this is my time. So when you're talking midlifers, what's the other elements that you're seeing start to come up in that energy that's shifted from their 30s to now their 40s and onwards as well?
Well, I think it is the time pressure. When you're in your 20s, you're like, it's going to work out. I got time. So I'm getting there. And in your midlife, you're like, holy shit, I'm not getting anywhere. Like, and this is, if I don't get it right now, like this, I got to get it right now. So the pressure increases. The senses are tuned midlife. But you're right, there's some more opportunity. You've often got a bit more financial stability, less requirement at home. Kids are a bit more stable. You know yourself a bit better. You've had time on your skin, so more self-awareness, more maturity. So everything's positioned well. And all the things you said about seizing the opportunity for the midlife, brilliant. I'm just suggesting that surely it would make more sense to work with yourself rather than against yourself to seize that opportunity. Like, surely that's not so complicated for people to grasp that if there was a way to actually lean into the best of you and together seize that opportunity to achieve those goals rather than I need to make myself, because if I don't make myself seize this opportunity, then I'm going to ruin everything, my life, my kids' life, their kids' life. So I don't trust myself to relax. I have to be vigilant, disciplined, focused, and afraid that at any moment, if I stop, I'm going backwards, not forwards. So that's most people's experience at midlife, the pressure they put on themselves. So, if there was a way to switch that energy around.
If I can kind of make it into a bit of an analogy so I understand it, it's easier to swim with the tide than against the tide.
Of course,
it gets tiring swimming against the tide. It might feel like those lap pools that you see the swimmers, and it's like they're training because the waves are coming at them, whereas you'd be far more efficient swimming with the tide.
Unless you're David Goggins, he's got to prove that he can still get against the
on
tide.
the highest level.
That's exactly right.
crank that up to the highest level, like turn the treadmill up to the highest level and watch me run on it. I feel like, and the treadmill is probably a really, really good example. People stuck in a corporate role. Again, you're coaching a lot of these people we spoke about before, and they're stuck on this treadmill at the highest level, going, if I don't run at this pace, someone else is going to take my gig. Someone else is going to come and take my house, that one that I want. Someone else is going to take my family, the one that I've worked hard to build. And it can all, I guess, as a level of burnout, making bad decisions, it can all go away pretty quickly.
Terrifying, the pressure people find themselves in.
It is, isn't it? Isn't it? So for such a privileged country that we live in, there's champagne problems sometimes, but this is first world problems that we're dealing with, isn't it? It requires a different mindset. So I can even speak as I'm first generation migrant, but it's like, there's no mental health problems here, mate. We came to a lucky country.
That's right.
Put your nose to the grindstone and work hard, and this country will give you everything that you want. You want and more. Whereas it's like that mode won't work because at some point something's going to give, and usually it's something internally that then goes off, right? So let's go through the 4 elements that what you've unpacked in your book and in your research as well.
So just to be really, really clear, this is not like the fear is self-discipline is strong, brave, powerful, and self-care or self-love is soft and flowery and relaxed. There's love and care in the permission model, but it's permission is the distinction, not discipline. And I hear people misuse permission all the time. They think, so what? I've just got to give myself permission to relax and give myself permission to not care what others think. No, that's not how it works. If you're a kid and you think about how permission works when you're a kid, that's a useful place to start because the adults have permission. You have to get it off them. You're a kid in a classroom. Miss, can I go to the toilet? No, you haven't finished your maths. Well, do your maths, then you can have permission to go to the toilet. The kid can't just give himself permission to go to the toilet. They'll end up at the principal's office. That's not how it works. Or, Dad, can I go to the party? No, you haven't mowed the lawn. When you mow the lawn, then you have permission to go to the party. So permission always comes with requirements. So if you go back to the fact that your unconscious is deliberately sabotaging, yes. Deliberately resisting you, yes. Safety officer has come on site, has deliberately hit the emergency stop button. Fuses have been pulled out. Yes, you are intentionally getting sick, feeling clouded, losing. That's all by design. So permission has been denied. What are you got to do to get it back? Oh, glad you asked. Here's a clipboard with 4 safety issues. As soon as you address them, let's go. Okay, that's interesting. What are the requirements to get permission? Okay, well, let me tell you the 4 dangerous things in your life. Danger number 1, you don't trust me. So imagine this is the best of you talking to yourself. You don't trust me. Like, if you don't trust yourself, the world's going to fucking eat you alive. Like, imagine there's no safe place to retreat into. You don't trust your intentions, your motives. No one else, like everyone else is feathering their own nests, worrying about themselves, and you need everyone else to provide safety for you. You've got none internally. That's a dangerous way to be a human. That's the very first thing we're going to examine. Why don't you trust me? Who do you think I am? What do you think I did? Like, what's this accusation you got against? If I don't trust you, it's because something's happened in the past. We've had some kind of fallout. And, people say, it takes time to rebuild trust or, we'll just get over it and move on. Imagine we didn't talk for 10 years and then we sit down and you say, Jaemin, let's not worry about the past. Let's let bygones be bygones. Let's just trust each other and move forward. We might both really want to do that. But if we haven't talked about what went down 10 years ago and cleaned that up, we're both nervous.
Correct.
You can't just pretend. So to rebuild trust, you're going to have to go back and examine what is it that you think's dangerous. Like I wouldn't trust you if I fear that you could hurt me again because you haven't resolved that last thing. So in my mind, you're a dangerous person. It would be foolish to not be guarded toward you. So in the same way with yourself, unless you're willing to go back and examine what do you think is wrong with you? What's this thing? Do you think you're lazy? Do you think you're weird? Do you think you're stupid? Like, what's this problem? And now it's become like you've gathered all this evidence over the years, but that's how our brains work. They just create evidence for whatever we believe is true. If you're willing to go back and have a look at where this came from, like one of my clients at the moment, he's workaholic, he's so driven, terrified of stopping, never takes a break. Like, it's out of control. And we get down, what's the danger? Like, what are you afraid of? I think I'm lazy. Okay, that's weird. Where's that come from? And he just eventually just keeps thinking back in his mind, goes back to being 5. He's playing with some Lego in the bedroom. His dad comes in, blows up at him. I told you to clean that room yesterday, you lazy little son of a, and just that accusation around, oh no, you're supposed to be doing something other than playing with your Lego. There's something wrong with you. And his fear that that's true and his agreement with that. So now the rest of his life is spent covering and compensating, running and hiding from the fear of ever being seen to be lazy. So all along there's this kid who's been accused and betrayed, been told you're a terrible person. Because to be called lazy, especially when he would, like 40 years ago, to be called lazy with a Protestant work ethic, if you're called lazy, like what kind of a person's lazy? Well, they're not just lazy, they're bad. Like, if you're not adding value, you're taking value away. Like, that's a real indictment to be called lazy 40 years ago. So all that fear of there's a problem with me. But as a 5-year-old, how could you possibly have enough objectivity to understand what's real? So this is, everyone's got this stuff from their childhood that they've never reviewed. And they don't trust themselves because of the worst thing they thought was true when they were 5. It's so dangerous.
It's so dangerous. It's so dangerous. And as a parent, I mean, there's no playbook for, for these times where it's like, that dad, if you asked him now, like, do you remember saying that? He'd probably say no.
Well, and everyone goes there. If anyone's listening as a parent, you'll think, oh my goodness, I'm ruining my kid's life. But let me put you at ease. No one escapes their childhood without developing limiting beliefs about themselves. And even perfect parents do not protect their child from developing fear. It's not possible, and it's not desirable. Like the biodome experiments in the US in the 1980s, I don't know if you remember that.
No.
This US scientists set up these fully enclosed domes to try and recreate perfect atmospheric conditions to bring life on Mars or whatever.
Oh, right, okay.
And so they had these 10 scientists locked in there for 12 months, had to grow their own food, and just everything was sealed. Trees would get to a certain height and then they would topple over. And the scientists were like, what's going on here? Like, we've given you perfect conditions and you're still going to die. Like, come on, that's ridiculous. Until someone said, yeah, watch what happens. Their height outgrows their roots and they've never had any wind. There's no drought. There's no hardship. There's no reason for them to build any strength. And so inevitably they just topple over.
Wow.
So it turns out perfect conditions are not ideal. The obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
We require something to overcome. And so, you go into the gym, you don't lift air, you go find something heavy to lift. So the fact that everyone has some stuff to go and review from their childhood, that's the gym. That's how anyone becomes mature. So if somehow you avoided any woundedness, any pain, any hardship, you are incapable of functioning in the world and you have no way of becoming strong.
Wow.
So parents, you can settle down a bit, do the best you can and get your kid a life coach when they're 21. But you can kind of understand that if you don't trust yourself, A, it's dangerous, but B, it's so unfair because for this guy to have accused himself of being lazy when he was 5, it's a betrayal. He has, like, his dad said some stuff, but he's agreed. And he's looked at himself and like, you're shit. You're bad. You're worthless. You're not a contributor. You're a thief. And so then it's like, well, don't be you. Like, never be you ever again. Be better than you. Be different than you. Be other than you. So now he's running and hiding from who he thinks he really is so that no one ever finds out that he's actually lazy and worthless. All along there's this kid going, wait, what? Like, I was just a kid playing with Lego. Like, can everyone settle down a bit? But that conversation's never had. 40 years later, disciplined David Goggins, beat the shit out of myself because if I don't, I'll be lazy. Like, okay, that's crazy. You're out of control. No wonder the unconscious is like, can we please bloody have a conversation about Lego when we're 5 because you got it wrong. I'm not who you think I am.
Yeah, wow.
So there's a bit of work to do, but let's first just go trust. If you don't trust yourself, that is a dangerous way to be a human being. And if you not willing to go examine that, then you're going to be resisted.
Yeah, I feel like we hold on to this. And I catch up with my brother occasionally. My brother manages people, and it's not even about the team, but it's more just about like a standard, right? It's like how you do anything is how you do everything.
Right.
And it's like that, and we're like, that's a very tough bar to set. But I'm like, we're gonna make our bed in the morning. And then it's like, how much protein you're getting a day, and how you optimizing your life, and it's like these other people are lazy because they're not doing everything up to a high standard. And it's like, I think high achievers will then hold other people to their standards as well, so they don't trust themselves, therefore not willing to trust other people. That's a very hard. Mm-hmm. That's a very hard bar to set for others as well, that maybe give themselves a self permission to go, I'm okay with my bed not being made in the morning. It doesn't reflect me being a lazy person. Mm-hmm. I'm just okay with that.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean to reduce standards. Like if you watch what I produce more than I've ever produced before on less time, because there's no battle. I'm not fighting. So we're not like, the fear is I'm going to give up. It's not going to matter. I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to go backwards. That's not what happens. It's a misunderstanding. Work with yourself, like swim with the current or against the current. You are going to go further with the current. So to rebuild trust is essential for succeeding from midlife. If you do not trust yourself, it's chaos internally, and all your best energy is still directed to proving and defending yourself. Everything is a compensation. Everything is a show, so that no one else knows who you think you really are. So that's number one.
Yep.
Number two is, again, the unconscious saying to you, do you know what? In certain situations with certain people, you get a bit needy, and that's really dangerous. So let's not say any of these things are good or bad, right or wrong. Let's just say they're dangerous. So for you to show up still hoping that this person likes you, that person accepts you, that person agrees with you, this person celebrates you, this person thinks you're doing the right thing, that's dangerous because they have all the power and they can withhold what you need, and then you crumble, and you've got to play the game their way. So to be externally referenced, like every child has to start there, without complicating things. I love Tony Robbins' 6 core needs model. Yeah. And he says humans need certainty and variety, significance, love, contribution, and growth. And when you're a kid, you don't have the capacity to meet any of those things. So you enter into this transactional model. You're like, right, I need love. I need to feel accepted. Who has that? Well, my parents have that. So what have I got to do to get it? Because you realize as a kid, it's not unconditional love. No matter what anyone's saying, absolutely, you can behave in certain ways that get you scolded, disciplined, ostracized, rejected, and other ways that get you loved and accepted and celebrated. So you're like, I'm not an idiot. If I want my dad's approval and I got to like soccer, I'll like soccer. Great. I need my friends' acceptance and I got to wear a certain brand. Well, I'll find a way to wear a certain brand. Like I'll play the game in a way that gets me rewarded. No child is capable of completely going against the flow and going, I don't need anything from anyone. No, you need everything from everyone. Like you are a kid. So you're going to sell your soul. You'll develop personas to make sure this person likes you, accepts you, believes in you. So not saying there's any judgment on the kid doing that, but by the time you're an adult, you have worked out how to feed yourself, dress yourself, drive a car, earn your own money. So you're physically and financially self-sufficient. Yeah. What about emotionally, intellectually, psychologically, relationally? Have you thought about bringing those needs in-house as well? Because if they're still outsourced to the world, you're still transacting. You're still selling something of you to get what you need. And it's just a dangerous way to be an adult, especially a midlife adult. So this idea of, until you become your own source, until you validate your own existence, until you're willing to deeply love and accept yourself, until you're willing to be your own certainty, you're in danger. So for me, I don't know if I've ever told you about my rings, but this ring's a visual anchor of a commitment I made to Catherine 25 years ago. Yeah, 19, and I remember standing on the altar with her saying some pretty big words. as a kid.
As a kid.
and I remember my father-in-law saying, "You are too young. This is not going to work." And so I'm saying all these things to her, knowing I have no track record of being able to prove anything here. But that's not what qualifies me. What qualifies me is my wholeheartedness. I look into her eyes and I say, "Hey, I've got you. I've got this. I've got us. You won't need to look outside anymore. Like, I'm your guy. And with this ring, I am committing my whole heart to you. That's where I'm in, and there's no plan B." So still a very powerful anchor of a wholehearted commitment to love that woman for the rest of my life. And when I learned 6 core needs 12 years ago, it was just like, you're kidding, it's the same thing. I didn't know it was my job to give myself certainty, love. I thought it was everyone else's job. Yes. And then no wonder I'm so insecure and needy and uncertain and anxious, because no one's very good at it. They're too busy meeting their own needs to worry about mine as well. Until I realised, oh, that's my job. It's my job to see me, like to deeply love and accept myself.
Yeah.
And so this ring was a commitment to go, "Hey, Jaemin, I've got you. I've got this. I've got us. You won't need to look outside again. Like, I know who you are. I like you. Nothing to prove to me." And just that wholeheartedness of being my own source. It's such an upgrade and such a safe way to be me. Because if I'm my own certainty and significance, well, where's the danger? I can go play in the world. So what if you don't like me? So what if you don't think I'm doing the right thing? I like me. And how would you know if I'm doing the right thing anyway? Like, how could you possibly know what I should or shouldn't do? That's my job. So there's some work to do again, but what beautiful work. Like, to be able to have this never-ending source of the needs and the ability to meet that yourself. Yeah. Such a beautiful way to be a human and such a safe way to be a human. So you'd be so thankful that your unconscious would want to have a conversation with you about bringing your needs in-house rather than continue to sell your soul to get what you need from others.
Incredible. So we've covered a couple of them. Yeah.
So trust, neediness. Number 3 is, and your gameplay sucks. So again, not good, bad, right, wrong, just really dangerous. So this is news for people that, because I love gamification, which is to apply game structure into non-game domains.
Okay, yeah.
So we all know games. We play basketball or touch footy, or we watch sport, or we understand Monopoly. We understand how games work, but often life doesn't feel like a game. Marriage doesn't feel like a game. Investing doesn't feel like a game. It just feels real.
Yeah.
So it's to go, well, what if they were a game? What would that open up for you? So it's to kind of do an audit of your life and realise you are involved in a whole bunch of games, and there'll be a bunch of games that you are playing without intention and without skill. Games you've been invited into by friends and family, by the world, that you're like, I don't even really know why I do this. It's just how I do it. And it's just a very dangerous way to be you, because if you're playing a game that's not suited to you, that you don't know the rules to, you will be losing. And if you keep losing games, you'll feel like a loser. And that's very costly on your soul. So again, you'd be so grateful that your unconscious would be like, can we just do a bit of an audit of the gameplay and just make sure that you're playing the right games the right way? So it's a lot of fun to just think about. Like an example for me was I podcast as well.
Yeah.
I got drawn into the podcasting game. I had a friend 5 years ago who said, "Jaemin, you're running a podcast." I said, "Wait, what now?" He says, "I've booked your first guest and you're going to thank me later." So I'm like, create a vacuum, then fill it.
Yeah.
So go work out how to get the tech and software, and all right, I got my first guest. And so a year into podcasting, I'm feeling so anxious about every time I go do a podcast, because I'm like, I've got no idea why I'm doing this or what success is. And there's a lot of external indicators of what I should be doing, because there's a lot of other games. So you got the Joe Rogan game, do 3 or 4 hour episodes, smoking drugs, have a lot of fun. That's how you succeed. Or Tim Ferriss, you got to interview the world's most successful people. Or perhaps you succeed by having the best graphics or the best audio or the most number of episodes. But when I stopped and went, hang on, what's my game? It's like, okay, my game is do not add to the noise. This is not about, success is not a weekly episode. It's only say something when you have something to say. and say it as short as possible. So I did 10-minute Tuesdays. I will get on. I will not spin my wheels. I'll bring something value add, and then I'll stop talking. That's how I'm going to run this. And I'll intend to do it every week, but if I've got nothing to say, I will say nothing. Well, and to have guests on my show that don't agree with the fact that insecurity can be solved, that's not my game. Other people have guests that disagree, and they think that's fun. But I'm trying to convince people that you can solve this problem. So why would I have a psychologist come on my show that says you can't really be healed, you're just going to manage that?
Yeah.
So anyway, all that to say, it's really dangerous to not know your game and to not know the rules. So to do an audit of that, of all the areas you're playing, and to upskill.
Awesome.
And then the final one is an incongruent avatar. So the most subtle of the four, but still a danger.
Absolutely.
And that would be, to keep the game metaphor going, you're playing basketball, but you keep showing up with your netball skirt on. So it's weird. You're a good basketball player, but no one takes you seriously, and you don't take yourself seriously. So, when I wrote the book, probably when you wrote the book too, the game of writing, you got to become a writer. You can't just show up and play the game as a business owner or a coach or a podcaster. That's not how it works. You have to embody someone who knows how to write. You have to show up as that avatar. Yeah. So just a wholeheartedness to then be a winner in the games. So if you get those four, you trust yourself, you're internally referenced, you're clear about all the games you're playing, and they're the right games for you and you know the rules, and then you show up as the person who can win those games. Like permission granted. Yeah. Let's go play in the world. Your world's now safe. Now everything's aligned, and then productivity and performance can increase.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like this is a real identity upgrade for a lot of people.
That's a great way of describing it.
Yeah, it's to shake off the old self to go into the new self. Yep. That's why you call it the work. That's one thing that's a common thread with a lot of these modalities. For example, you got to do the work, and this is deep, heavy work.
And it's an operating system upgrade too. If you think about it, like if you've never updated your phone, new apps aren't going to run on an old iPhone 3 operating system. So it makes sense that there's going to be some upgrades every now and then. So midlife, there's an upgrade around these four things.
I love it. Hey, mate, I feel like we have to come back on at some point. There's so much more to get through. If you've loved this episode, like I said, it may seem like there's a bit left of center, and that's deliberate, because when we talk about investors, when we talk about midlifers, when we talk about making good decisions for the future and giving yourself the permission to be wealthy, the permission to be a high-quality investor, the permission that you're going to shake off old relationships that aren't serving you to then new ones as well, but most importantly, self-talk, I feel like this is going to be a recipe that's going to help you unlock some new levels as well. And I know you've graciously given us a couple. So if you've loved this episode, drop us a DM. We'll put it as first in best dressed for a couple of these books to come out to people. I really hope you get a lot out of this. Jaemin, thank you very much, mate. I appreciate the chat.
Thanks for having me. It's been
awesome,
great.
Mate. It's been awesome. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. We'll talk to you soon.